can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Eric Wilson. Today, we're going to go over a little NHL rumor that we saw on Twitter, a little discussion, kind of some speculation, just having some fun here as we ramp up towards the rookie training camp that's coming up really soon. So before we get into all of that, we're going to have analysis on that throughout the week and throughout next week, talking about the rookies and the prospects and everything. We want to talk about this kind of outlandish rumor right here about Connor McDavid potentially being a trade candidate for multiple teams, including the New York Rangers. Now, how realistic is this? We'll discuss that. We'll get into that. It might not be the most realistic thing to happen, but we figure we'll cover all the bases, discuss Connor McDavid, what he might bring to the New York Rangers, which we know is a whole lot, and whether or not this is a trade that could potentially happen ahead of the regular season. But before we dive into Connor McDavid and the potential of the New York Rangers trading for him, Eric, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. I just wanted to shout out all my Rangers fans. As some of you may know, on this day in 2006, the Islanders signed Rick DiPietro to a 15-year contract, and until 2029, the Islanders continue to pay him $1.5 million per year. What a waste of cap. I hate the Islanders, obviously, as a Rangers fan, but that's something that just brings me joy on this day. Just be like, damn, the Islanders are paying this random guy who retired years ago more than $1 million every year. And then outside of that, even more exciting news, Fireside Rangers fans, I'm proud to announce that within the coming weeks, maybe months, I don't know what the timeline looks like, merch is on the way. We've got some merchandise coming in soon, so be on the lookout for that. We'll make an official announcement soon, but just know it's coming. But other than that, I'm doing good.
I'm doing great as well, and just make sure anybody who's involved on the channel, likes to watch and subscribe everything, go over to our community page. We're going to start posting there. We just launched the community page, so go interact with us. You talk to us kind of one-on-one, a little more personal, and of course, any of the updates about the merch or stickers that we're going to give away as well, anything like that will be posted about in the community page, so keep an eye on that. But let's go ahead and dive into this Connor McDavid trade speculation now. Eric, you're a huge Connor McDavid fan. I'll let you take the floor and introduce him to this topic.
All right. I mean, if you're watching this channel, you're a hockey fan, Connor McDavid is arguably the best player in the world right now. I wouldn't go as far to say that he's the best player of all time just yet. You still got Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, Bobby Orr, all these players who have been phenomenal. But the way that Connor McDavid has been playing throughout his career so far, he has the potential to be in that conversation for the greatest player of all time. And, he's been on the Oilers for a very long time. And when the Oilers earned that first overall draft pick back in 2015, some people might know the video of his reaction to that. He was very upset. But, he's done his time in Edmonton, and he's tenured for a couple more years. But there has been rumors going around where he might not be too happy with how the Oilers have done. He had one good playoff run just a couple years ago where they ultimately lost to Vegas, I think it was, in their inaugural season. But, there are rumors and speculations going around that he might want out of Canada. And the Rangers might just be one of those teams that he's interested in, an original six team who has a lot of potential in the next few years. So will Connor McDavid be traded? I don't think the Oilers will let that happen. But if it were to happen, I would not count the Rangers out of the picture just yet.
Yeah, so Connor McDavid did sign that massive contract that you were mentioning. There are some years left on that deal. And, of course, we're going to get into some of these contract details, which are going to be pretty jarring, as a Rangers fan looking to see, could the Rangers trade for him, despite the fact that the Rangers don't have a bunch of cap space. The numbers are going to be like, wow, okay, so definitely not. But we'll get into a couple ways that the Rangers could potentially make it happen. It would take a lot of work, though. But he signed this contract in 2018 with the Edmonton Oilers. Actually signed it in 2017. It's a $100 million contract. He's 4 years into it. He's making $12.5 million per year. That's his average annual value. The cap hit is 12.5 every single year from now all the way through 2026. So he is on contract for 4 more years, which is kind of a valuable aspect of the contract. If you do trade for Connor McDavid, you're not just trading for a 1-year stopgap superstar. You're getting him for a few years. He's tied in to the team that trades for him if they do. But $12.5 million cap hit is a whole lot. He also does have a no move clause on every year of the deals. So he can't get traded anywhere unless he accepts the deal. So the Edmonton Oilers can go out there, try to trade him. But unless Connor McDavid approves of the team that he's going to for the parameters that he's going there for, it's not going to happen. He has to okay the decision. But like I mentioned, this is a huge, huge contract, really tough to get this under the books if you're the New York Rangers. I'll pull up their salary cap numbers as well in just a second. But Eric, what are your thoughts on this kind of contract? And do you think that this is one that the Rangers could even potentially entertain taking on?
So, as we know, the Rangers don't have too much cap space to work with right now. But if we are going to be trading for a player like Connor McDavid, it is going to take a lot of assets. Like we just recently signed Vinny Trocheck this offseason. If we're going to trade for a center of this caliber, you might have to include Trocheck or Zibanejad in that trade, which is about $7 or $8 million right off the table right then and there. You're also probably going to throw in a couple prospects, a couple picks, and maybe some third or fourth line players. So it's like, yeah, $12.5 million is a lot, but when you take into account what we're going to have to give up in order to get him, the cap space might just clear itself throughout the trade. And, if we sweeten the deal enough, Edmonton might be willing to retain some of that salary. But like I said, I don't know if Edmonton will be willing to make this trade unless we do give them the perfect offer. Connor McDavid is the best player in the world at this moment. It's going to take a lot to get rid of him. Like I said, Zibanejad or Trocheck probably out the door. I know we just named Trouba our captain, but he might be a candidate to be a part of that trade as well. They're probably going to want a defenseman because Edmonton's defensive core is lacking a little bit. Maybe Lindgren can be a part of that deal too. That's like $3 million right there. But, the numbers, not my area of expertise, but just the amount that we're going to have to give up might just equate to what this one singular player is earning.
Yeah, well, when you're talking about what the Rangers might have to give up, as you mentioned, Trouba, probably Capo Caco. You might even have to bring up Igor Shesterkin's name. That's kind of like where I might personally draw the line. Eric, we were talking about it. You were like, well, I don't know. I think it might just be worth it, Connor McDavid. We were talking about it before we started recording. Personally, I got too much of a soft spot for Igor Shesterkin, and I feel like the Rangers can get all the way through deep into the playoffs and maybe into and through the Stanley Cup Finals with Igor Shesterkin. I feel like he's that impactful. I don't know if I'd be willing to give him up for Connor McDavid, but of course I understand. You look at his career numbers. Of course, 2021 to 22 season, he had 123 points in 80 games. He is just the superstar amongst all superstars. But basically, what I want to know is Igor Shesterkin. You're willing to sacrifice him in order to acquire Connor McDavid?
No. All right. So what I was saying earlier was back when we had Georgiev, I might have been willing to entertain the idea briefly, but now that we have Halak as our backup and like Igor has done as good as he has, I don't think it'd be worth it. Unless we get like McDavid and Draisaitl and like another star player, there's no way that I would probably entertain giving up Igor. I love Igor with all my heart, and it would take a lot for me to be ready to give up Igor.
I guess what it would really come down to is, do you value a goalie more or a center more? And that's really what the argument would be there. But I think, I don't know, man, having a goalie like Igor Shesterkin, historic numbers like that, I feel like that can be argued to be just as valuable as having a superstar center.
You're right. I'm not going against you. I'm just going to elaborate on it more. It's like you look at the way Edmonton has been built throughout the last couple of years. They have their offensive star power with like McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins. But then they really lack in the defensive and goaltending aspects, which is why they haven't really been able to make it that far in the playoffs throughout the last few years, which again leads into why Connor McDavid is very upset with where he is. But then again, it might be his own fault for asking for a contract that large. But so it's like, if the Rangers were to trade for McDavid, the amount of things they would have to give up for it, it might just put us in the same situation as Edmonton. We'd have to give up Igor. We'd have to give up Zibanejad or Trocheck. We'd have to give up Trouba, So it's like we might as well just take the well-rounded team that we already have that got us within 2 games of a Stanley Cup final rather than just getting this big name and just hoping for the best, It's like, do we want to just be the next Edmonton, or should we just keep the same team that we got going for us?
And, I'm in the boat of keeping the team that we have going. I think that the Rangers are building something really special. I think, they were one or two pieces away, and I think they might have found those pieces this offseason. I think the signing of Vincent Trocheck to the contract that he signed over the course of the next 7 years, that was a big power move by the Rangers, by Chris Drury, Gerard Gallant to go out there and get Trocheck. And I think that could be the one that pushes them into the Stanley Cup Finals.
I think it will be.
I think it will be as well. Made it to the ECF. Right there, all the way to Game 6, kind of choked out the ending of the series, but a lot of that had to do with, missed open net goal, like wide open goal missed by his favorite, Ryan Strome.
Don't even say those words. It's been a while since we brought up Ryan Strome.
It's been a while since we've revisited our previous nightmare inducer.
My hatred for Ryan Strome has not ended. I saw him in his Anaheim jersey for the first time, and it filled me with anger. I sent it to Anthony. And I said, I hate this man. I hate Ryan Strome. God damn it.
His hatred for Ryan Strome is undying. It will never go away.
You guys won't see the off the camera type thing where it's just me and Anthony in our house and I just see him and I'm just like, Ryan Strome. But it happens. He's got to take my word for that.
It's always a funny moment when it does happen. But let's, before we wrap this up, let's talk about Connor McDavid's contract and kind of compare that to other stars in the NHL. One star that I do want to compare it to right off the bat is a star for the New York Rangers, who is Artemi Panarin, your favorite player. He is making almost $12 million per year on average annual value. And you kind of just mentioned, well, maybe Connor McDavid shouldn't have asked for a contract of $12.5 million per year. But Artemi Panarin making 1.6 or 11.6 rather, it's kind of a similar thing. So I guess where do you think that the Artemi Panarin contract might stack up? And do you think that, if you were to go after Connor McDavid, make this trade happen, are you giving up Artemi Panarin to kind of like offset the balance? Because you could maybe make the cap space work there. But when you're taking a look at Connor McDavid, he takes up 15.5% of salary cap space. Artemi Panarin at 14.1% is not that far off. So similar contracts, but what's the skill set similarity?
So call me biased, right? I think Artemi Panarin's contract is better than Connor McDavid's. Just mainly for two reasons. One, throughout the recent years, last like 2 to 3 seasons, the economy of the NHL has been extremely inflated. We've been seeing a lot of these forwards who don't deserve like double-digit million-dollar contracts earn these contracts, and that's like a current problem. Like we might be approaching a lockout. I don't really know, but we'll see what happens with that. But Panarin, as we've said many times on the channel, he makes people better players as well. Panarin is a playmaker. Most of his points throughout the season come from assists. Panarin will sit there on the side of the ice and make these passes and let other people score. So yes, we're paying him a lot of money, but he's also helping to inflate these other players who would normally be like 30 to 40 point scorers into 50 to 60 point scorers. Mm-hmm. McDavid is kind of a one-man show. He's been on Edmonton for a very long time, and outside of Draisaitl, who doesn't even play on the same line as McDavid, no one else has really been improved. Like McDavid is the type of guy who just takes the puck up the ice on his own and scores on his own. So for $12.5 million just for a one-man show, I don't know if that's worth it. But 11.5 for a player who helps to improve his team overall, I see a lot there. Panarin does a lot more on the power play. And even on the 5v5, we didn't do that well on it last season. But overall, throughout his tenure with the Rangers, I think Panarin has been more productive. So, like I said, I'm biased. McDavid is a better player overall than Panarin, but I'd rather have Panarin's contract than McDavid's right now.
I think it's a fair argument. I totally see where you're coming from, and I'm not even going to sit here and disagree. I think that, Artemi Panarin does elevate all of those around him. He makes everybody around him a better player. You could probably argue that Connor McDavid might hold some people back because he is just so excellent. And,
also, Edmonton also just does kind of suck.
Right. And a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that they're paying $12.5 million
exactly.
Connor McDavid. So,
and you compare the contracts, like $1 million is a huge difference. Like you look at the Rangers cap space right now, if we had an extra $1 million to spare, that would change everything with this team. It's
totally true. Right now, the Rangers have $1 million in salary cap space. Yeah. But if they had to, they could sign a player who was worth about $1 million. But
that's Tyler Mott right there. $2 million is Tyler Mott.
Exactly. So that's a very, very fair argument to be making. But I guess that really wraps up the Connor McDavid discussion. Everybody, let us know down below in the comment section. What are you willing to give up for Connor McDavid, if anything at all? Do you think that the Rangers should even entertain such a possible trade? Or do you think that they should just continue to build the homegrown talent, get the guys that they've got, develop them, make this current team the New York Rangers Stanley Cup champions? And personally, that's the boat that I'm in. But let us know down below what you think that the Rangers should do and what your thoughts are on the Connor McDavid trade rumors. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. So subscribe if you're new to the channel. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. We'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.
He shoots. He scores. Rangers.